Beloved, at the heart of the pandemic, before there were really any guidelines, before we could even step into a church with just only family or limited number of persons, one of our beloved transitioned on to glory, that being Catherine Rachel Drakeford. We did a small grave site service for her in Arlington Cemetery. And as I shared with the family that at the appropriate time, pending the virus, we would have a proper homegoing celebration for her. Well, beloved, unfortunately, we still find ourselves apart and not able to gather like we would normally. And so I spoke with Rhonda, and rather than trying to have a memorial in person now, Rhonda and I thought that it would be great that I give a panegyric for our dear beloved Catherine Drakeford. Beloved, when I think of our dear sister Catherine Drakeford, I think of Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti, you may recall in the book of Esther, found there in the first chapter. It reads, "To bring before him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and to the nobles, for she was lovely to look at. But when the attendants delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come." Vashti. Vashti corresponds to the significance of her name, which means beautiful woman. And she must have been one of the loveliest women in all of the kingdom, for King Ahasuerus, who thought so much of his wife that he decided to allow others to gaze upon her beauty. She is one of all the things, one of the most inspiring of women. For Queen Vashti has a strong sense of herself, so sure of her worth, clear of her purpose, and unyielding in her demand for everyone to respect her. That, beloved, was Miss Drakeford. When I first came to Beulah, which was roughly around 13 years ago, I remember seeing Miss Drakeford, this tall, elegant, stately woman who wore her crown. Can you see it, beloved friends? Can you envision and imagine and remember Miss Drakeford as she would walk so ever gently and stately down these aisles? Can you see it, beloved? Just as in the middle of the 3rd century BC, in the middle of being the queen that she was, King Ahasuerus wanted to parade Queen Vashti around in front of everyone. But the Bible says Queen Vashti refused, and as a result, the king burns with anger and dethrones Vashti. While there is much to unpack here, when I think of Queen Vashti or Queen Vashti, I think of Miss Drakeford. For you have to understand that both Queen Drakeford and Queen Vashti stood for their own dignity. For now, we may not know, what supported Queen Vashti's decision to refuse the king. But you see, I know who guided Miss Drakeford. I know who guided her decisions. She knew who she was. She knew that she was a child of God. She knew that she was a woman of God. She knew and believed her and her own worth because she knew who she was. And like Queen Vashti, Miss Drakeford accepted God's radical love for herself, and that love translated into a commitment to care and to be a good steward of the life and the ministry that God gave her. We all know that for years, Miss Drakeford headed the missions and outreach ministry, and she was a beloved trustee of this church. Now, some of you all would recall, and I'm sure some of you all would get a chuckle out of this. When Miss Drakeford was transitioning as the head of the missions and outreach ministry, I was having ongoing conversations with Miss Drakeford, and certain moves were made. And I went to Miss Drakeford, and I said to Miss Drakeford, at this point her health had fallen and she was bedridden. And I said, Miss Drakeford, the missions and the outreach ministry are mad at me. And I shall never forget, beloved friends, she erupted into this laughter and said, oh, I knew they would be. For they have been calling me all day. And beloved friends, we talked through that, and at the end of the conversation, I asked Miss Drakeford, I said, how am I doing as pastor? And she said, oh, you're doing a wonderful job. She said, I may not always understand the changes you're making, but I believe that you are following God to lead us in this new age. Because if you weren't doing a good job, I would tell you. And you know that, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. You see, beloved, Miss Drakeford taught me and teaches us that we can do what we can do when we accept God's radical love for ourselves and for others. She loved me. She loved her church, and she loved God's people. God has made us a little lower than the angels. So when God breathed into us, God breathed life into us with purpose and with power. And beloved friends, we have to understand that Miss Drakeford knew her purpose and she knew her power. For when she served this church and she served through the trustee ministry and through the outreach and missions ministry, she served well because she knew her purpose and she knew her power. So, beloved friends, so when asked to go beyond what is required of us to do and what is capable of us to do, when we are pushed to the limits of care and of ministry to others, we ought to think of Catherine Drakeford. You see, beloved, when I also think of Miss Drakeford, I think of the hats she wore, her crowns. She would often share with me how her grandson, Barack, would buy her a new hat, and she would beam with glory. Crowns, beloved, as the award-winning journalist Craig Marbury provides in an intimate look that the women of the church, particularly the black church, and the crowns, the church hats they would wear. Miss Drakeford preserved her crown, not because she was gasping or grasping for power, but she preserved her crowns because they were a symbol of who she was. Not power obsessed, not status hungry power, but Miss Drakeford knew that when she was serving the Most High God. Serving and being a good steward of the things that were entrusted in her care. And now, beloved, God has rewarded her with the crown of glory. Miss Drakeford was our queen. She was our stateswoman. She was our royalty. She was our sage. She was our matrion. She was Catherine Drakeford because she knew of God's radical love. And now she is wearing her ultimate crown. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life, the Bible tells us. Miss Drakeford has that ultimate crown now. And I'm thankful that she passed this way. I'm thankful that she loved this young pastor in the process. I am thankful that she served this church for over 40 years. I am thankful for the life of Catherine Drakeford. And when I think of Catherine Drakeford, I think of the life that she lived. I think of the service she gave. And I think of the queen she was. I know, beloved, it's been nearly 9 months since her passing. But it would not have been proper if we had not given honor and thanks for the life of Catherine Rachel